Time for a mailbag here on Chicago Bears Now. I am your host, Harrison Graham. Appreciate everybody for clicking on today's video. Load up your questions by using the hashtag Bears or the Super Chat function. If you Super Chat, we'll skip the line and get you to the top of the list. All right, we got Jackson with the $10 Super. Appreciate it. What wide receiver should the Bears trade for? I mean, I still stand by this, even though the Bears are not contending this year. If you could get DJ Moore without giving up a first-round pick, I would do it. He is under contract through 2025. He's the type of receiver that I think would excel with Justin Fields. He's a downfield threat. Justin Fields, albeit the struggle play, he's actually been one of the better big play quarterbacks in the league this year. The problem with him has been he's missing too many layups. DJ Moore is a big play machine. If you could get him for less than a first, I would do it. Chase Claypool is a guy I would have interest in if he's available. So there's certainly guys on the market that you could go out and get. Daniel Jeffries, Quinn to the Rams for a third-round pick. I'm in. Would the Rams trade a third for Robert Quinn at this point? I don't know. Quinn has not been super productive this year, but if that trade is on the table, I would pull the trigger on it. I absolutely would. Jacob Noggle, trade Roquan and Eddie Jackson. Appreciate the super chat, by the way, for a couple of second and later rounders, then trade up in the draft, get another first. Cheers to you. Roquan and Eddie for a couple seconds and later rounders, move up, get a first. Yeah, I mean, if you trade Roquan and Eddie Jackson, you're going to get some decent capital in return. If you're watching live, stay tuned for our trade candidates video. At least one of those names is on the list. But yeah, if you want to go fire sale mode, those are two names that would fetch you decent capital, no doubt. We got Aaron Shaw Mluffle next. What do you think of Coach Flus saying the O-line and wide receiver are doing a good job on the coaches show? Sounds like they are not holding anyone accountable if that's how he thinks. I mean, I think it's a tough one where, like, publicly he's not going to blast players, right? You got to have a locker room of trust. I'm sure there's conversations behind the scenes, coaches meetings, players meetings of like, hey, we got to be better here, we got to be better there. It's a tricky thing as a first-year head coach because if you go publicly and say, yeah, Lucas Patrick has sucked, that's how you lose some players in the locker room. So you can't do that. I think he's probably overall pleased with the effort. I don't think the effort's been a problem. I just think they lack talent in key areas. So I think it's a process. He knows it's a process. You got to toe that line of being careful on what you say publicly. Can I get a bear down in the comments? Listen, it's been a tough go the last couple of weeks. I still can't get over the Commanders' loss. I mean, it's just historically bad how they lost that game. If you missed my post-game rant, go check it out. Subscribe. It's right there on the channel. But get the bear downs going. We need some positive vibes moving forward here. 2-4. Try to go win on Monday night and then go from there. Dalton Moore, how do you feel about a Calvin Ridley trade? Not before the deadline, but off-season, absolutely. Especially, again, if you can get him without giving up a first, which I actually think could be a possibility because by the time Calvin Ridley plays again in 2024, if he plays in 2023, excuse me, if he plays again in 2023, it will have been almost 2 years since he's played. You think the Falcons are getting a first-round pick for that? I don't think so. I think it's going to be a second, maybe even a third. You get Calvin Ridley, pair him with Darnell Mooney, go draft another solid receiver in the NFL draft. You could kind of turn this thing on a dime pretty quickly at wide receiver. Jason Williams, would you rather have kept Mack and traded Quinn? I mean, look, hindsight's 20/20, right? I think Mack was going to fetch more in the trade, which is why they traded him, and he was coming off injuries. Quinn was obviously better last year when he played, but Mack was still really good when he played. Mack's having a great year this year. I can't sit here and say trading Mack was a bad idea. He's a 30-year-old pass rusher who had started to get some injuries. Good for him, balling out with the Chargers. He's got 6 sacks in 6 games. I think we all know that his talent is better than Quinn's. He's a couple years younger. I would love to have known what trade offers were available for Quinn. I think even though he had a great season, I don't think you were getting a first for him in the offseason. So the answer could be yes, Jason, but I don't think either way would have been a bad move by Chicago. You got Jaquan Brisker out of that trade. Obviously, I don't think he's going to become Khalil Mack, but by the time the Bears were contending, was Khalil Mack going to be a major factor? Maybe, but I don't know. Truman Outley, trade for DJ Moore or Claypool and give Gordon a chance. Josh Gordon. Oh, the Josh Gordon rumors are back. Yeah, he got cut by Tennessee. Josh Gordon just I got nothing against the guy. I think he's done an admirable job to get back into the NFL. He's gone through a bunch of triumphs in his life, but he's just not going to offer much. Kansas City couldn't find a spot for him. Tennessee couldn't find a spot for him. And by the way, Tennessee's receiving core is not that great. But DJ Moore, Chase Claypool, yeah, I'm interested in those two players. Follow us on the Call-In app. We go live every Tuesday and after every single game with post-game shows. This is your chance to call into the show and ask me your questions. You can subscribe at chatsports.com/BearsCallin. Download the app on iOS and Android. It's a similar product to Twitter Spaces with a couple of extra features like a live chat feature and some other stuff. You guys can interact with one another. Chatsports.com/BearsCallin. Download the app on iOS or Android for free. From Burrito Bandit, do we draft a offensive line or a receiver in the first round? I think it depends. I think you still have to have a big board if you're Ryan Poles in this front office staff, scouting staff, and still follow that fairly closely because this is a team that's going to have a lot of needs. Now, if all things are equal, if you're up on the clock and there's an O-lineman and a receiver that you feel really good about both, I might lean receiver. Like, if you think it's a guy that can be a number one, this is the whole Jamar Chase, Penei Sewell argument, right? Cincinnati decided to go Chase. Detroit got Sewell. I think both teams have been happy with the results, but we saw the impact Jamar Chase gave Joe Burrow. I mean, they go to the Super Bowl in their first year together. So I think that is critical for Fields to get another weapon he can trust. Alex Dino, $5 super chat. Cheers up to you. He says Aaron Rodgers is a baby. I agree. Had to say it. If Justin gets injured because of the line, that is directly Ryan Poles' fault. Yeah, I mean, he would have to take a decent amount of the blame, right? I don't think this was the year to invest heavily, but they could have done a little bit more. I think some of it would be on just the play itself. Maybe the coaching hasn't been good enough up front with Chris Morgan or Luke Getsy. I think it would be a combination. Fields, too. At times he holds the ball too long. But, yeah, I mean, if this season really goes south and the Bears ruin Justin Fields, Ryan Poles is going to have to wear a decent amount of that because they didn't do enough for him this offseason. Amos Goldberg, let's get the Khalil Herbert party started, leading running backs in yards per carry. Khalil Herbert's the truth. 6.4 yards per carry. Now, he's not great in pass protection. That is a clear area David Montgomery is better in. David Montgomery is also a better receiving back, but as a pure runner in this system, you might – I don't know if it's too early to say this, but Khalil Herbert's probably a better pure rusher in this system. Seems like there's a little bit more explosiveness there. I'm a big fan of Khalil Herbert. I think he's a guy that can be a lead back for sure. Samoan Mike, do you think we can still beat Green Bay like you predicted earlier this year? I mean, anything's possible. I said one of my goals for this team this year is to beat the Packers at least once. Didn't happen in Green Bay. Packers aren't playing that well, though. That's not a team that's insurmountable. The Jets just kicked their ass at Lambeau. It is not impossible for the Bears to beat the Packers. Now, if things continue like this, would I predict it? No, I wouldn't. But it's a rivalry game. Anything can happen. And that game is, 2 months away? We got a lot of football between now and then. I hope so, man. I mean, I think even if this team toward the end of the year has a pretty bad record, if they could win that game over Green Bay, I think just mentally that would go a long way heading into 2023. 11 games left. Perfect segue from producer Jack. How many more games will the Bears win? There's 11 more games. If I had to guess, not even looking directly at the schedule, I would say maybe like 4 or 5, get to 6 or 7 wins. I mean, you got the Bills. That's a loss. Dallas, probably a loss. You never know in this league, but those feel like games you're not going to win. Minnesota at home, Detroit twice, that's winnable. Patriots, I still think is winnable Monday night, but New England is and should be the favorite. I don't know. Feels like 4 or 5. Let me know how many more you guys think the Bears will win. All right. There's our mailbag. Appreciate everybody for submitting their questions. We actually have a couple more to get to, but just wanted to tell you guys to subscribe, youtube.com/BearsNow. Daily videos. If you want to be a part of these mailbags, subscribe. Join us on Tuesdays. We go live and answer all your questions, so hit that sub button. Couple more here. Onyx Revenge. How are you feeling about Gordon and Brisker? So far, I'm loving Brisker's playmaking and hitting. I like what Brisker's done for the most part. I thought he struggled against the Giants in that game bit on a lot of those bootlegs, but I think he's playing pretty well for sure. He's going to be a cornerstone piece on this defense. Gordon the last couple of games has played a lot better. He's still got a ways to go, but things were looking pretty bad that first 3 weeks. I think against Minnesota he was solid, especially in the second half after a bit of a tough first half, and then his best game of the year for sure against the Commanders. I thought he was really good in that game. Jaxo with another 10. We can beat Dallas. I mean, look, it's the NFL. You can win or lose any game, right? It's a league of parity. I just worry, how are you going to block Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence? I mean, the game plan is going to have to be sharp from Luke Getsy. Dak is going to be back in that game too. Sounds like he's going to play this week. If not, he'll for sure play next week. That makes things tough. And it's on the road. Don't want to rule it out, but I think we'd be naive if we think the Bears are just going to walk in there and beat Dallas. Ron Pandy, and I got a drink for that last one. What could the Bears get if we trade Fields? My guess would be 2 third-rounders. It's a good question. Look, Fields is such a tricky case study right now because he's actually one of the top big play quarterbacks in the NFL. Not many quarterbacks create more explosive plays. That's a stat that like PFF, PFR, kind of calculate. The problem is he misses too many easy ones, right? Like the accuracy can wane on the underneath stuff. He holds the ball too long sometimes. He's obviously playing with below average talent. 2/3, I mean, I think a team would throw a second at Chicago, honestly. I don't think you'd get a first right now, but I think you could get a second. I really do. The raw talent has been on display every week, even though it's been very inconsistent. It's about finding the consistency and getting players around them. That's what needs to happen here. All right, now we're at the end of the mailbag. If you didn't get your question answered, at HGramNFL, Twitter, Instagram, follow me there, slide in the DMs, ask me your questions. Every couple days I go through there and respond to you guys. So hit me up at HGramNFL on Twitter and on Instagram.